Most dudes in the world are forcing themselves to do things they do not enjoy. There are a lot of people in the world who think until you conquer the desire to conquer, you can't become a man.
Does that apply to me? Like, I'm working, man. You know, I've got to provide.
It's possible to build your business and serve the world and have joy and be masculine as fuck. That's possible. You can have a killer instinct and be a good dude. You can be a family man and conquer the whole hierarchy that you choose to be in.
There is something inside of me that I'm not aware of that comes out when I'm in bed. I wake up, I feel off.
Pay attention to that feeling of something's off at all costs. There's this guy who says, I want to take care of my business, my family, and my kids, but the number one thing that causes them harm, he's completely avoiding dealing with. The most important thing for you to do is to get inside your insecurities. And
what if you could build success and wealth and money while also having success within yourself? Removing triggers and negative emotions, loving the man staring back at you in the mirror so that you can show up as a better father, a better husband, a better business owner, and a better man. Well, there are 10 strategies that we talk about today that are going to help you do just that. This is so powerful if you want to be the best version of yourself. We have Matt Hope here, who's coached billionaires, multimillionaires, and potentially men just like you. If you want to be the best version of yourself, watch this podcast now. Matt Hope, you had one of the most viewed, most liked podcasts we've ever done here, and also one of the most disliked and controversial podcasts we've ever done.
if you're, what's that saying? If your shit ain't popping, that's why you don't have any haters.
Yeah, 100%. And it wasn't really hate. It was guys that I admire and respect. Like, we had a guy in here who have helped with his business, with his marriage. And he was like, I couldn't fucking stand that podcast.
Yeah, nice.
And I'm
Why?
like, I didn't actually understand why. I was like, why? He's like, I don't know. And that's what I want to dive into. So for anyone listening right now, Matt's going to dive into what we covered last time. We'll drop the episode link down below as well. But what really struck me about last podcast was this idea of destructive masculinity versus toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. And for anyone listening at home, what it meant for me was to be a man, provide, hunt, fuck, kill, and burn everything to the ground in the process.
Totally.
My health gone, constantly stressed, my marriage in the shitter, and I'm coaching men on how to fix their marriages. Mm-hmm. So that really struck a nerve with me, and I could see how valuable it was. And I'm surprised by why why certain men were triggered or upset by it, or why they didn't enjoy it. So give us a recap of what we talked about last time and why today is going to be relevant for the listener.
Nice. Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me back.
You're welcome.
Basically, we finished the last podcast and I left feeling like we'd only told half the story and basically decided, hey, let's come back and do a part 2. So it's really important for everyone. A lot of this podcast is going to assume you've watched the previous podcast. Mm-hmm. If you haven't, it's really important you go spend that time because we're really going to build off it. And this is really considered a part 2 of this kind of part 1 conversation. Now, as Tony said, my name's Matt. I am a coach who basically specializes in self-love. You know, I really believe self-love's a skill. And my purpose and mission in life is to help people learn that self-love is a skill. And one day maybe try and get 1 billion people in the world to learn self-love. Now, that might sound like a really rogue statement for the people back at home. But Tony was in one of my rooms like 6 or 7 years ago and I was saying the same shit out loud then. Like, I've always been consistent in this idea that I think self-love can really help people and really change the world. Now, I normally work with feminine beings, masculine beings, gender diverse beings. I have everyone in the same room, but obviously our podcast last time and this time is just going to be for the masculine. It's just for the guys at home who are stuck in their life and want to ask deeper questions. They've realized the stories they got told growing up aren't giving them what they want. So how do they get what they want? And what we spoke about last time was this idea that the stories you and I got taught growing up, the stories of the hero's journey, we never got the ability to question those stories. Mm. And I really want everyone back at home just to sit and feel with me because I never questioned these stories. There was a moment in my life where I realized I've never actually questioned if the hero's journey is real.
Yeah. Just for anyone who hasn't listened to the previous podcast, like, break down what you mean by that. Because they're like, what do you mean hero's journey? In my mind, the way I interpret it is you're a man, grow up, go get a trade, start a business, provide for your family, sacrifice everything, hustle, 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 and then slay these dragons in business or in wealth, and then you'll somehow have freedom or happiness. That's what it means to me. But how would you frame it for the man listening to this right now, the masculine being?
Well, no, I think that's perfect. And what I'm trying to do here is offer guys a different path. I'm not trying to say one path is better than the other, even though I personally think one path is better than the other, but that's just my perspective on the world. What I'm trying to offer to guys is, yeah, you can look at the hero's journey, exactly what you said. It's also the predominant way you make sense of the world. What I mean by that is, you don't ever question that when you go to high school and you write up in the top right of the corner, the date. Like if I asked you the date right now, you can tell me what the date is, and neither of us are going to think it's weird. Okay, great. That didn't used to happen. A lot of cultures in the world never kept a date the way we keep dates, with years and months. So all the way down into, hey, every single year we make progress, we count up. These are all woven, these ideas, everywhere into your life before you can even speak. You're watching TV shows programming you with this idea that life's about moving from A, which is insufficient. Where I am right now is not enough. I don't have enough treasure. I don't have enough business success. I don't have enough masculinity. I don't have enough muscles. I don't have enough whatever it is. I've got to go on some difficult path, to go on some outer and inner journey to conquer a bunch of shit, potentially some other men or their dreams. And then at the bottom of all of that, I'm going to get what I want, which is a bunch of treasure and the princess. And then my life's going to be cool. And then that's the end of the scene. Life's done.
Can I speak into that really quickly? My daughter started watching Pokemon a month ago. I used to love Pokemon.
Yeah.
And it's funny because up until this moment, I didn't realize that's exactly what's happening. So Ash Ketchum is catching Pokemon.
Yes.
He's going to the league where he's going to win and succeed. And he's leveling up and evolving his Pokemon. And my daughter's like, yeah, Charmander evolved. So it's actually funny you say that because I can see how she is being programmed to see that journey play out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, for these guys back at home that are very disturbed, or not disturbed, but triggered by what I say this with all the love in the world, but that's only going to get worse. And I mean that in a good way. You should be riled up by some of the shit I've said out loud, because if you're going to be honest with yourself, you've never heard it before in your whole life. Someone saying to you the hero's journey is a scam is a serious situation, okay? Either it is or it isn't. Okay, that's like a black and white claim. Okay, what is a scam? It's a fraud. It's an overpromise, and then you don't get what you actually wanted, and you're left feeling unfulfilled and like, fuck, I feel like I missed out on what I really wanted, which is how all of the dudes you and I work with in their high-performing businesses feel when they crush it and they succeed and they get the reward and they feel good for 3 days, and then they're like, wait, what? And they feel exactly like they did before they went on the journey. I have felt this. You've definitely felt this.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to offer to guys is you can be free of that. But if you want to be free of that, you have to literally build a different understanding of the world where you realize there is no end to this journey where I just get to sit and it's all complete. You have to keep living life, right? At the end of every movie, at the end of the Avengers, right? The most recent one where they kill half the people and then they bring them all back, and Iron Man, with all due respect, can't build an effective strategic plan, so needlessly sacrifices himself. But anyway, we won't go down those routes yet. But in that movie with the Avengers, what you're seeing playing out is just this endless conquering group of people who aren't actually solving problems. Because the next scene is okay, everyone was dead for 5 years. A whole bunch of people got married and moved on. Okay, and now your dead husband's back, but you've moved on. And we don't, if you think about this, the Batman one where he has to take the nuclear bomb and fly away with it. The next scene after that is the tsunami that wipes out New York. And I just want all of the dudes to think about this. Yeah, what is this end scene thing? What is this movie's over, story's done, get out of here? Because that doesn't happen in our life. Your experience never stops. Does that make sense? You just hear all the fucking time. What am I doing? Why am I scared? What am I here to do? What I want to offer to guys is it's possible to build your business and serve the world and have joy and be masculine as fuck. That's possible, but you have to live a life of service to unlock it. And this is, I think, for me, one of the biggest lessons I've learned from guys like Steph Curry and LeBron. You can have a killer instinct and be a good dude. You can be a family man and conquer the whole hierarchy that you choose to be in. That's a really important thing. I didn't see that much growing up. Most of the dudes I saw who were out there with killer instinct and all this masculinity had pretty destructive personal lives and they weren't really stable. So for these guys, the other route is to live a life where you say, no, it doesn't matter where you go or what you do, you are always going to be there.
If you're getting value from this podcast episode, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and the bell icon. It allows us to reach more men, to keep more families together, and to give you more value with the guests that we get on board. So please do me a favor, hit subscribe, hit that bell icon so we can give you even more value. What does that mean though? For the average guy listening to this, he's like, how the fuck does that apply to me? Like, I'm working, man. You know, I've got to provide. I've got shit to do. Like, what do you mean service? What do you mean? What does it mean?
Okay, this dude who's just a regular guy who's got to provide, if you'd be really honest with yourself, man, like, you've been uncomfortable with yourself. You felt nervous. You felt anxious. You felt scared. You felt insecure. Maybe all of the time your whole life, except for when you're really drunk or you manage to occasionally access a flow state. What I'm trying to do is to help you realize, what if you could do all the shit you're doing right now, but instead of doing it from a place of inner conflict, you could do it from a place of inner connection and inner peace. And what if instead of moving 1,000,000 miles an hour, you slowed down? And instead of just moving at a frenzy and smashing buttons and just trying to make it all work, you actually pay attention to this intuitive feeling you have inside your fucking gut, man, that like something's not working. And what I want to do is get to the bottom of it, but understand what's not working is your feelings. Because what happens is you get the Tesla, you get the big unit, all these dudes walk around and be like, yeah, he's the fucking man. And you're in bed at night and you just still feel that same churn. What would you call it? Like, how would you describe this feeling of just like, oh, it's this endless, I gotta go?
I can tell you right now because I haven't slept well for the last 2 weeks and I've got so many things aligned. And when I wake up in the middle of the night, it's not that I'm afraid or anxious. It's that I'm just subconsciously, something in my body feels off or wrong. And I'm like, but everything's great. Totally. Like, and I feel so much peace day to day, but subconsciously, meaning for anyone who doesn't understand that, there is something inside of me that I'm not aware of that comes out when I'm in bed and I wake up and I feel off. I don't feel wrong. I don't feel sick. I don't feel angry. I don't feel scared. I'm just like, this isn't good. Does that make sense? And it's a really weird feeling because I would like to think that I have my shit together. I'm like, what is this? Yeah. Why? What? When? What?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to fail you and say you don't have your shit together. Clearly, all of the effort that you've put in to move your life forward has paid off. Like, I met you when you didn't have any of this stuff. And when I came back from your podcast last time, I was just telling people, I was like, good for this guy. You know what I mean? Like, you've had to build it, and that's fucking awesome. You have taken care of your family in a way financially, which I think is really admirable. Okay, so like nowhere in this are we saying don't do any of that. Okay, so let's all breathe that out. And please, as a dude, like, don't simplify my argument down to like, oh, he's just telling me to go live in the forest and like go to Nimbin and smoke weed all day. It's like, no, you fucking idiot. Like, with all due respect, there's like this real emergency situation that we are all in right now. This super urgent reality that we're all faced with. And there's all these people saying, hey, this is how I think we should solve it. This is how I think we should solve it. This is how I think we should solve it. I think one of the solutions would be teaching a boatload of people self-love. you don't have to agree with that. That's all good. But you also don't then have to try and tear me down, because I'm literally just trying to help move people forward. Mm-hmm. The reason this is so challenging to hear is because it strikes at the heart of this masculine narrative we've been given, which is I've got to conquer to become a man. There are a lot of people in the world who think until you conquer the desire to conquer, you can't become a man. Okay? There's these different aspects and ways of looking at masculinity. What I think would be helpful is to actually give guys another story structure that we can actually use to then go back to the hero's journey and compare. Because I'll be honest, one of the things that's probably challenging for the guy back at home is he's like, yeah, but what's the other route? Like, what's the other pathway? If you're saying the hero's journey is shit, what should my journey be? Awesome. Here it is. Pay attention to that feeling of something's off at all costs. Let's just slow down. We don't need anywhere else to be other than the fact that it feels like there's tension. Stop running to the outside world, trying to put Band-Aids over the outside world just because you're scared of feeling what's in here, and flip it around and go bottom up, right? So you're trying to just move from your intuition and your gut first rather than your head down. Mm-hmm. Now, you and I got taught growing up that certainty is possible. It's like the most normal thing in the world to chase certainty for people. And one of the things that was really helpful for me is realizing that certainty is actually not possible. Now, what does that actually mean? A lot of people in the world think there's this guy called Einstein, and that he is the smartest person who's ever lived. Now, Einstein walked home with a guy every day when they worked together in the physics department. And for all you guys at home being like, why the fuck's the self-love guy talking about Einstein? I'm just a regular dude providing. What I'm trying to do, man, is help you set yourself free of this scam that I think has been perpetrated by big business on you. And it's the reason your life, no matter what you do, is never going to feel enough. And I want you to be free of that. We've got to have some challenging conversations about how we've all gotten here for us to do that. But my intention here is to serve and to give you the ability to have what I call main quest masculinity. Mm-hmm. Masculinity that does not have that feeling in it. Because I don't have that feeling anymore that you were describing.
Yeah.
But I used to all of the time.
Yeah. And it's a horrible feeling because it's when you have that feeling, you can't put your finger on what or why, and then you judge that feeling. So I'm like, for fuck's sake, it's night 13, it's 2 a.m. Like, why can't I just sleep? Because when I wake up, I feel great. Like, what's going on inside of me to cause this? And then I judge that feeling and I'm like, this is wrong. Mm-hmm. And I would love, I crave to not have that feeling. But then I also feel like I'm sort of trying to get something, which is pushing it away, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. And just, again, for all the guys back at home, I just want to show you there's a bunch more open space and questions we can ask that maybe we didn't think we were allowed to ask growing up. Like, I never heard anyone say, hey, maybe there's a different way other than the hero's journey. It was just that dude wrote that book. He studied all the cultures. That's the story, and shut up. But if you dig into that book, he didn't study all the cultures. And here's some giant blind spots into what that guy didn't study. One of them is the Tao. Now, we're moving around a bit because what I'm going to do is do something that I call weaving. I'm going to weave some math and the Tao, which is some poetry, together. So all the dudes in your audience who are engineers and physicists and business quant guys and like all the guys who are mathy, and that's how they maybe shut down their feelings, get to come inside this journey where we really get to see, okay, if life's not about chasing certainty, if life's not about living in my mind, building this vision that I've got to go achieve to change how I feel on the inside, well, what is life going to be about? What's the other path? Mm-hmm. Now, most of the people back at home haven't heard of the Tao. Totally fine. Most of them have heard of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant.
Yep.
Great. They were coached by the same coach. Most people know that. This guy called Phil Jackson. He also won twice as a player, which means he has 13 rings. He wrote a book about leadership called 13 Rings. I want to encourage everyone back at home to read it. In this book, he himself says, there's a famous shot Mike hits at the end of his Bulls career. And we all pretend like the Wizards bit didn't happen. In Game 6, a really famous photo where it's just him at the top of the key and he hits the final shot to win the championship and everyone claps. If you hear Mike talk about what it was like in that moment, He said his experience was like moving through the world and he felt like this game had already been played. I just wanted to feel this. This is him talking about what it was like in this moment. I didn't really have any sensation of time. It felt like my body knew what needed to happen before I did. And I just had to move in flow with my body. I didn't think. I shot the shot and it went in. Phil Jackson's whole coaching approach was to get that out of people, to be able to put you in a place where you can move and trust with flow rather than thinking, I'm not enough, I've got to cover it up and build something else. You can be like, no, I am enough, I'm awesome. Let me trust myself and trust my body and see how that goes. Now, when you read Phil's book, the whole book is about his relationship with the Tao. This book of poetry, everyone knows what the yin and yang is. The yin and yang comes from this book.
For those that don't know what the yin and yang is.
The yin and yang is everyone's seen it. The circle with the like half a teardrop white, half a teardrop black, and that they've got like a little bit in either one.
Yes.
Now, again, the reason we're talking about this is why would you not want to achieve more in your life? All these guys who are like, how does this apply to me? Well, what you want to do is wake up every day and get the best out of yourself every single day.
Yes.
That's what we're all hungry on. And we're hungry for consistency in that.
Yes.
Great. Athletes are the best at that. I think we can all agree. Like, again, there's a lot of people back at home, if they were a billionaire, they probably wouldn't be waking up as early as LeBron is every day, right? So athletes are amazing at this, and you know this as a business owner, and I know this, it's not just being consistent all year. It's when the stakes are the highest and the pressure's at its highest, you are able to pull the best of you out of yourself. It's so important for you as a business owner, so important for me as a business owner. There's been times where my whole quarter boils down to one sales call. You would have had the same thing. And it's like, oh man, I can be perfect 99 days out of 100, but if I fuck up that one day, all of the other days don't count. All of your guys back at home who are high-performing business owners, they're going to have these moments where like the shit's on the line and you got to go into the sales deal or you got to go into the big meeting and you got to literally execute and get it done. And if you don't, there's massive consequences maybe to you, your career, and your family, like for real. Okay, so how do we find the secret sauce so that when we go into those rooms, we crush, right? And Phil Jackson's whole life is about answering that question. And he did it massively successfully. And he credits the Tao for doing it. Mm-hmm. So the Tao is this book of 81 pieces of poetry. And it's all about how to live from your body and live from flow, not live from your mind. And this is the journey that's outside the hero's journey. Because what's so awesome about Taoism and the Tao, man, is there's no hero's journey. We don't know anything about Lao Tzu, the guy who wrote it. And I want everyone to feel that. There's no be like him. It's a book of poetry which says, no, you got to fucking do it yourself. You have to get inside your own scare and fear and darkness and challenge inside yourself. And that's actually your main quest. The most important thing for you to do is to get inside your insecurities and learn how to heal with them. And I really want everyone to feel that. What if that's the most important thing in your life? Okay, that's different to the most important thing being go and conquer to prove to myself that I'm not what my insecurities tell myself I am, which is not enough. Can you feel the difference?
Yeah.
Now, the guys back at home, is this going to resonate or are they still going to be like, oh, how is this going to translate to me?
Well, the reason I understand what you're saying. I just know the argument. What I'm hearing you say and what I think the listener will hear you say is, my number one quest in life is going within myself and healing or working through or understanding my fears, my insecurities, my doubts. That's my number one quest. And you don't have children yet, right?
No.
For a father or for a husband or for a business owner with 10, 20, 2,000 staff, mm-hmm. for them to take their main quest, which is provide, protect.
Oh, no, that's not their main quest. Their main quest is to avoid their feelings. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Again, this is a really important point.
Yeah.
One assumption is you can't be doing inner work all the time.
Yeah.
Let's just go slow with that. Because this guy who's back at home is like, I've got to run my business. I've got to be with my kids. I've got to provide for all my employees.
Therefore, I don't know how I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why can't you do it both at the same time? And
that's a great question.
Breathe. Because the answer is you can. Okay, cool. So I've got to be honest. All those guys' arguments, they have to start to vanish. Because the expectation is you're using your imagination and your thoughts every single day. One of the hardest things for me to learn as a business owner is my business is actually in my mind. Because I don't have a mortar store, like a brick and mortar store, neither do you. So I've got to run my mind like all the time. Yeah, so why can't you be doing that and paying attention to what's going on inside of you? Again, one of my coaches, BJJ Black Belt, had a massively successful career in construction. The number one thing he does when he gets up and makes a testimonial in my programs is talk about the difference self-love made in his execution. Let's go into every single pathway of that guy's life. Okay, what causes him to feel like he's being a bad dad? You get overly emotional and you react to your kids from a part of you that you wish you didn't.
Yes, and then you feel guilty and ashamed afterwards.
Okay, that's that silo.
Yeah.
Business, what causes you to fuck up in business? Thinking you know more than you do, not eating enough humble pie. Cause of like number one danger in business at all times. But then like you trust the wrong people, maybe. That's your business silo. And then you've got your family silo, like what causes you to maybe not be the husband that you want to do. And again, you're noticing this pattern, I'm reacting from emotions when I don't want to. So there's this guy who says, I want to take care of my business, my family, and my kids. But the number one thing that causes them harm, he's completely avoiding dealing with. Do you see this?
Yeah, I always teach my clients the number one investment and person you get to focus on is yourself. Because when I am calm, healthy, aligned, when I'm dealing with my emotions and working through them instead of judging them, I don't react towards my daughter.
This is so fucking great, by the way. Yeah. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Please get going. Yeah.
But there are moments where I do, you know, like for example, the other night I was putting my daughter to sleep and she's been sleeping in my bed for like 3 months now. I'm trying to train her back into her bed and she just like yapping and doesn't want to go to sleep. I'm like, Talia, just go to sleep. And then instantly I'm like, for fuck's sake. Like I meditated today, I journaled, I did all these right things. And now I'm this piece of shit. Now then I feel guilty. I work through it instantly. I apologize, but it keeps coming up.
Totally.
You know, it keeps happening.
And so why can't you be big business owner, be a man, and also be tinkering with that stuff? And that's what I'm talking about here is like, no, just like you tinker with your business, you tinker with your physical fitness, you tinker with your rolling, you tinker with being a dad. Why can't you tinker with your insecurities? Why can't you just be waking up every day and just like you're trying to get better 1% every day in all these areas of your life, trying to be consistent? Yeah. Why are you consistent? Not you, but why are you consistent everywhere in your life except for your insecurities?
Great question.
And this is why these guys are being really challenged with what I say, by the way. By the way, I love that we're doing this and I love that we're asking these questions because the answer is, why can't you do both? I can tell you, most dudes in the world are forcing themselves to do things they do not enjoy. Facts. Don't try and convince me you love your job unless I can tell that you love your job. Like most dudes, if they're honest, I probably don't love my career as much as I could. Yeah, that's having an impact on your whole life. And the impact is you can't pay attention to your feelings because you really don't want to be in the job you're in. But that's really scary to think, oh shit, maybe I've got to change my career. Maybe I've got to change my identity. Maybe things aren't as clear as I thought they were about who I am. You don't want to ask those questions, so you just push harder into your life. And I want guys to know there's another way.
So paint that picture for me. If we go back to the Dow and we go back to, was it Phil Jackson? And we go back to Kobe and Michael Jordan.
Let's go. Yeah. We'll come back to that. Again, the reason I want to talk about the Dow and this guy who walked home with Einstein, we can do that in the last 10 minutes if we need to. That can happen whenever it was. The reason I want to do that is a lot of guys who are mathematicians and scientists and physicists and engineers and business owners love learning from me because just from my experience, I can lay out the logic of self-love. I'm not wearing a tie-dye shirt. I'm a founder who dropped out of med school to scale this business to get self-love to 1 billion people. This is my life purpose. And I want to talk about math so that guys who've lived their whole life believing in certainty get the proper argument. So they're like, oh, that's trying to chase certainty is like trying to jump into a pool of lava and go skinny dipping. Yeah, for half a second, you'll be able to claim you achieved your goal. But the cost is your whole life. And that's what most guys are doing. Every now and then they get that half certainty. Oh, I've done it. Finally enough money in the bank account. Finally got all the shit going. But then eventually another problem comes along and it vanishes again. Okay, so it's like we can come back to that whenever we want. We can also not do that in that podcast. It's just so important that guys understand like there's a logic to how we're talking about this. It's not just some woo-woo stuff that's made up. Rather than going to the Kobe and the Phil, I want to go back to your daughter and I want to, that thing you were saying with your daughter, and I want to show you the things. Okay, so First thing is you responded from an energy that you wish you did.
Yes.
That's part one. And then part two, you treat yourself like horse shit when you do it.
Yeah.
So what I would just say, and this is what it means to not dodge those feelings, but be with them every day, is like, let's cut those in half and realize you're always having two responses. You have your initial emotional response, and then you have what you make that mean. So your initial emotional response was one that didn't feel clean to you, but then you judge the shit out of yourself and make yourself so wrong and bad that you're never going to get the true answer of why it really happens. So the place to start, and I actually spoke about this in the last podcast, which is hilarious. I said the number one place I start with dudes is working on non-judgment. You don't mean for that to happen. It's not like you wake up in the day and while you're meditating, you're like, oh, I can't wait to get angry at my daughter. Do you know what I mean? It spontaneously comes out of you. So non-judgment is about looking at that as like, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility, right? Nowhere in your life did you get out a diary and write, that's how I want to respond, but it's happening. So we need to work and change it. And rather than judging that response and making it wrong and like scaring those parts of you away, you be welcoming. Okay, but like if I did know why that stuff happens, why does it happen? And so rather than just like moving through your day, getting frustrated at your daughter, apologizing to her, taking care of her, but not doing any of that for yourself, do you see? You love your daughter in a way you are unwilling to love yourself.
Yes.
She's okay, oh, daddy was whatever, she doesn't even care, but you walk away and you've added this load to yourself that you're going to like this big armor that you're now carrying this shield, you're like, fuck. And then you realize you're doing that, you're judging yourself, you're like, damn it. And I don't know what you do, but you'll go and have a shower, you go for a walk, you'll try and find some way to get it down. Why not clear that? Why not heal that whole fucking thing by just being more compassionate towards yourself as a man? But there's a lesson you and I never got growing up.
And I'll tell you why, because I have built my quote unquote success upon judging parts of myself. So I've built my business to $12, $13 million of revenue by going, this isn't enough, I need more. When I am, something I've taught clients before, which in hindsight, hearing you might be destructive, is I imagine if I don't get out of bed and go to CrossFit and get fit, or if I don't provide for my family, I'm putting a gun to my daughter's head and saying, fuck you, and shooting her in the head.
Which is destructive.
Destructive. And I use that as fuel.
Yes.
I don't wallow in it, but I'm like, I use my negative emotions and I use my fears and doubts and anger. I beat myself up for a minute or two, probably what my father did for years and has never healed. And then that takes me to another level. So I've built this relationship with myself where I feel these negative emotions and then I judge them to get better.
And you go and use them as fuel.
I use them as fuel, which I think a lot of men can relate to. Stress, anger, etc. Yeah.
Dude, I love, this is so great. Yes. So what I say to dudes in this is like, okay, let's say you didn't use your unworthiness as fuel. Because basically what you're saying is I make myself feel shit. I use that feeling of shitness to get competitive. No, I'm not this person I think I am. I set myself on fire, like to get all this competitive energy to start the engine. And then I push myself by like burning the car to create the like necessary heat to move the car forward.
Before you continue, I just want to highlight what you said. What if I didn't use my unworthiness as fuel? Let me say that one more time, because there's a lot of men listening.
Yes.
And many who love the podcast, they're like, yes, I feel unworthy. What if I didn't use my unworthiness as fuel?
And this, again, just for the guys back at home, like I've gone on this journey myself because I was programmed to think if I'm an entrepreneur and if I have a private jet, and if I have courtside seats at the Lakers, I don't really know what I expected to happen, but things should just be different somehow. Like that was my path in life. And that if I did that, I would feel like the man. And that was the purpose of my soul. And it was by meeting, I don't think I've ever met anyone with courtside seats at the Lakers, but it was by meeting with people who had achieved slices of that life and hearing them really talk about it that made me think, oh, there's another way here. I don't want to keep ignoring this churning within me because these guys still have the churning. That's why you see these really rich billionaires who are still 80, still running their businesses. They can't stop because their whole life they've used their unworthiness for fuel. But that also means they can never take responsibility for where their unworthiness impacts their family. This is do you see what we're really doing here? So why not do both? Now, you're going to be able to do both because you're on purpose. You're serving people. So it's totally fine for you to pay attention to your parts, because your parts aren't going to tell you change your whole fucking business. Your life's about proving someone wrong from when you were 14. Your life's not really about service. A lot of the guys back at home who've just chased cash their whole life and don't have a personal life because of it, the reason they don't listen to their feelings, man, is their feelings are trying to say to them, your whole life's fake. That's not a joke. That is the cost of doing this path where you do both. You execute like a man and all of that stuff, but you also live and recognize a lot of your executions come from unworthiness. And you've got to learn how to change that. Now, that's dead easy to do. It's not complicated. The problem is, instead of always being, I've got to run away from this burning building, it's now I want to run towards something I actually want. That's really scary for guys to sit down and be like, well, what do you really want from your life? Because then what if you try and chase it and it doesn't work? And we're back to the insecurities again. And that's just this, I guess, trying to help the guys that see back at home, like, you're in this spiral of not being able to take full responsibility for the emotional impact you have on people and where your insecurities are like damaging you in your life, until you're willing to do both. And doing both will change your whole life. Like, it
How
really,
do you start
really will.
doing that?
Well, start with non-judgment, right? And again, this isn't, there's a lot of fear around making a change like this from a man. But I guess what I'd say to guys back at home is, like, I've loved going on the journey to get to know what's inside of me. Like, fucking oath, it's been challenging, but I really know myself. And I know myself because I haven't run from those parts of me. I've gotten to know them and wanted to go, okay, well, why do I feel so unworthy? Getting bullied at school, whatever it was. Okay, those guys' voices are still in my head. I got to get to the bottom of that and really see what's going on. So I want to keep focusing on this, using using unworthiness as a fuel. The benefit of doing that is you can force yourself to do shit you hate.
If you want to actually take this framework that I shared and apply it to your life, it's part of our Empowered Man Armory and our app that we've spent almost 250 grand on. If you want access to a powerful system where you can use this reframe system I just shared with you every single day, then find me on Instagram at Tony Empowered Man, TonyEmpowedMan. I'll put the link down below as well. Send me a DM saying reframe, and I'll give you this exact framework as well as early access to the Empowered Man app when it launches.
Now, what's really important is, and I love that you said this, it's also really important to get frustrated that your life's not going the way you want it to go sometimes, and have to like look yourself in the mirror and be quite ruthless with yourself. And so again, I'm not it's not all like, yay, everything's going to be great now. Like, if you fuck up, you fuck up. Even when you love yourself, you still got to own it. You still got to take responsibility for it. You still got to do the work. But you understand at all times, if you're moving from love, if you're trying to come from love, you're trying to bring love to this earth. You're trying to make this place a more loving place. Every time you don't act from that, those are your insecurities, your security within, your bodyguards and armor within. When you get triggered, a lot of dudes say there's stuff coming up from me. Yeah, from your basement, from your belly, where all of your fears and insecurities and unworthiness are stored, they get really anxious and they smash you up into your head, and now you're reacting in a way you didn't want to react. Why not question those moments instead of blaming yourself that, like, because you're not this perfect man who's perfect in every situation, that you're a piece of shit and like you're a bad dad, when you've got like a dad that's growing up who's going to be connected to his emotions. And so already you're in like the top 5% of dads ever, but you're walking around being like, oh, I'm such a piece of shit. And like, why can't we get to the bottom of those stories of like, okay, Tony, like, why do you have the ability to put unworthiness into your car and make it run, but you can't put joy or happiness or hope or love in your car and make it run? Why can't we change your engine a little bit and open yourself up to a different way of living? Because here's the shit. The number one reason you procrastinate, the number one reason you don't get everything on your tasks done is because of the internal resistance. Because you're sitting there so hard, oh, fuck, gotta fuck, What if that internal resistance went away? And this is the reward. The reward is you commit to this, you'll get I can get 10 times more done in a day now without all the inner resistance, without all that churning, without all the what the fuck am I doing? Is this going to work? Because I paid attention to those insecurities and learned how to work with them. than I ever could when it was all wake up every day, 5:30, go for a run, doing my visualizing on the run, saying my affirmations on the run, like getting home, got to be 5 minutes in the cold shower. If it's 4 minutes in the cold shower, I'm a piece of shit and I quit on the day and like wake up every day, go blah, blah, blah. And if I'm really honest with myself, that was a lot of just button smashing. That was a lot of just, I'm just doing this stuff society's told me to do to really hope I can get where I want to go. And just frankly, it didn't work because I didn't feel like a man. I didn't feel like a man. People kept telling me I was a man, and in my gut, I was like, I don't feel like I am a man. I don't feel like I'm masculine, and I don't feel like I get joy in my life. I feel like I've got all this external success, but I can't really enjoy it. Why can't I have both? And the answer is, you can only enjoy life when you're being your authentic self, right? And it sounds so obvious, but it's the truth because you're here to be yourself, right? So when you're being yourself, you'll feel joyful, you'll feel authentic, you'll feel like life is really working. If you're here and you're using unworthiness as fuel and you're not trying to help people, you're not being yourself. You feel like you're too unworthy to be yourself, so you've got to be this successful business owner to get people to love you. You've got to always be able to take care of people around you with money to get people to love you instead of actually being yourself. So you've got all these relationships in your life which are half real and half insecurities, right? Half, oh, this person really likes me, and half, I wonder if I wasn't rich, if this person would still be in my life.
Yeah, well, if I didn't provide for my wife, and if I didn't have a six pack, and if I didn't, show up with calm and patience when she's upset, would she still be with me? Can you be your authentic self while also making shitloads of money and providing for your family and being a great father? Can you do, because I feel like I sometimes have to wear a mask. Like, let's say I've had a stressful day. I'll come home, Rosie will be like, how was your day? I'll be honest. I won't say, I'll be like, honestly, it was really challenging, but I know that I think I have to say, but I'll figure it out.
Yes.
And there's times where I don't know if I'll figure it out.
Yes.
But I have to wear that mask of like, I've got this, because I know as soon as I create uncertainty in my wife, it breeds into her. Another example is my team recently. I'm hyper honest, right? So I'll tell my team and my clients, our revenue's gone from this amount to this amount. And I'm very honest. And I do that not to scare people. I do it because I'm trying to take off that mask and be authentic. But then my team member told me yesterday, my general manager, when you say that, the team feels unsafe in their roles and they wonder if they need to start looking elsewhere. I'm like, fuck, I'm just trying to be my authentic self and be honest, but I'm now creating uncertainty in the people around me. So how can I be my authentic self and voice my concerns and my fears and my doubts as a man without hurting other people? Like,
Sweet.
There's a lot to unpack there, but
So many
I understand why men wear the masks, because like, I don't want to appear weak.
Yeah. Well, no. A lot of men wear the masks, let's be honest, because they're too fucking scared to play in the field.
What does that mean? What's the field?
That fucking Tom Brady guy with the man in the arena shit. Like,
Yeah.
Are you actually... When you're sitting around at dinner with your mates, and you're all just chatting shit, the ideas that are coming out of your mouth, are they your ideas? Or did you just hear some shit on a podcast and you just regurgitate it? None of your other mates say he had listened to that podcast yet. And then when they laugh at the joke, you suddenly go, fuck yeah. Like, is that your life? Is your whole life really not about being yourself and trying to be the most masculine man you can, being out there in the world, recognizing you're going to have haters, but you're not going to let them impact you? Or are you just back at home with your head in the sand, trying to play small, always criticizing and tearing down everything with society? But if we ask you, how do we make society better? You ain't got no answer. You ain't got no plan. And so it's so honest to understand. Most guys put on a mask because it's easy.
I put on a mask because I want to... Yeah, go ahead.
No, just because I want to get to this.
Yeah.
Because the two examples you raise are very different. One, you're a leader in a business. That's a different conversation. I love the answer, by the way, because I understand that situation. You're like, oh, I want to tell them exactly what's going on. But also as a leader, maybe you don't need to tell them exactly what's going on to the full depth of like, hey, this is the numbers or whatever it is. But you can still let them know things are challenging, right? So there's a way where you're still communicating your authentic truth, but you're doing it in a way where you also understand, just because you're the leader, it's a different situation because you've got to take other people's emotions into account. But you're still telling them what's going on, just doing it in a way where you're not going to disturb their feelings. The thing with your wife, for example, I actually think if you shared those as a feeling and helped her realize like, oh, hey, I know I'm going to figure this out, but I would love some help being in the uncertainty with you, that'll actually create a moment of connection. And that will create a moment because, again, I experienced this with my wife. One of the best things my wife has ever done for me is help me deal with my anxiety around my business. Like, she is fucking outstanding at doing that. And the journey I had to take responsibility for taking her on is most wives don't realize you can't just compliment your hubby like you compliment another woman. And it's such an obvious thing. You also can't compliment feminine beings the same way you compliment your dudes. It won't land. But there's this journey I had to kind of take my wife on, and she volunteered to come on with me, where I had to teach her how to like compliment me in a way which made me feel more masculine. Right? So
I'd love to dive into that. I know it's a bit off topic.
No, we can. That's why I said we'll just go wherever we want to go. We can go into that. And so when I talk to her about the anxiety in my business, she knows I'm not saying I'm anxious about myself as a man. Like, I know I'm going to fucking figure this out, but I'm just like, this is really overwhelming. And I just need someone to sit there and be like, yeah, fair enough. It's overwhelming. Yeah, no wonder you're feeling the shit you're feeling. Yeah, that is a lot. And you're doing great on behalf of us as a family right now. Like, and that moment for me grounds my masculinity in a way where I'm like, oh, thanks. Like, you've just reduced the amount of anxiety I feel by 50%.
Yeah.
But I had to share that with my wife and go first and be really vulnerable rather than putting on that mask, because I didn't want to kind of lock her out.
Do you know what's wild about that? This happened to me last week. Rosie and I had our first argument in over a year. It was about porn. She didn't know I watched it. Last time I watched it was 2 months ago. A friend asked her in front of us whether I watch it. I said yes, because I'm hyper honest. She asked me how often. I said 2 months ago. My wife broke down. She was so upset. I then went into victim because I'm like, for fuck's sake, like, I would say I'm a catch. Like, I give you everything you want. I come home early now. I'm not on my phone. I do all these things, and you're focused on this one thing. Now, we won't get too far into it. Her story was, I'm not enough. I'm unworthy. We worked through it in 24 hours, and we're so good right now. But one thing I said to my wife was, I feel like it's always the things that I'm doing wrong, and you're quick to criticize, but you're slow to praise. And I don't need you to tell me that I'm the man, because I know that I've got this. But I'd really appreciate it if you observe the things I'm doing well instead of the things I'm not. And because of the way I framed it, so obviously it took a bit longer, and because of the way we communicated, she felt heard, I felt heard. She's, in the last week, 3 times, she said something in front of my daughter like, Daddy's doing all of this for us. Or I'll help out around the house. She'll be like, she'll look me in the eyes and genuinely be like, I really appreciate all the work you've done. And that means the world to me. And it's almost like I had to train her to do that. Is that what you're talking about with this, or is that different?
No, a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So in, dude, if we manage to fucking come back to the Tao in this conversation, that's going to be the most wild thing ever. But no, I want to keep going on this. Okay, so what I call that as a coach is you had a meta conversation with your wife. And basically a meta conversation is a conversation about your conversations. Yeah. Rather than just talking about what's going on and how your week's been, you're talking about how you both communicate. Yeah. This is one of the most important skills to learn in a relationship. Your relationship, and I don't say this to be disrespectful, your relationship will fail if you don't have meta conversations, because it's the two of you trying to work out your insecurities together.
We've done hundreds of those.
Exactly. Great. It's a sign of a healthy relationship is that you talk about your communication and you're working through it. Now, one of the biggest things I would say is like, what these conversations you're having with your wife to get better at your communication are so important. I think the thing that's so important to work with is like the things that you listed of why you're a catch. That's your list.
And I was a victim when I was doing it.
But she might have a different list. Yeah. And the thing so one of the things I had to learn from my wife, for example, is like when she says the words, you're not hearing me, that it's like this, it's so hard to explain this, but like we call it like raising a flag. She's like raising a big red flag to be like, hey, I know you're in your shit right now and I know you've got all your stuff going on. I need you to park that shit and listen to me in a way where you're not listening to one of your male mates, but you're listening to a woman and you're not a fucking woman. So like, and this is this beautiful journey I've gone on with my wife to build our masculine feminine dynamic where she can be feminine as shit, and I can be masculine as shit, and it works. And we've had to build that structure. This is what you and your wife are doing, right? You watching porn maybe doesn't make her feel feminine or desired. Okay, but then the way she communicates to you doesn't make you feel masculine or desired. So there's this confusing balance. I mean, we definitely also should all stop watching porn, but also like in this experience with you and your wife, what's so important is you're on this journey that like you might have grown up in a house where if someone's emotional, you don't look them in the eye. That's how you be respectful. She might have grown up in the house where if someone's emotional and you don't look them in the eye, you're being disrespectful as shit. So there's all these places where you and your wife are loving each other so much, and just because of miscommunication, misdefinitions, not having spoken about things, you'll have a fight.
Yeah.
But at the bottom of the fight, there isn't necessarily anything real. So these conversations of being able to have these conversations with your wife, being able to acknowledge, yeah, I was being a victim, or for me, it was always going cold. That is what I had to take responsibility for and kind of take that on the chin for my wife. And I think the thing that I can say that'll help a bunch of you guys back at home, the journey that I notice like a lot of masculine and feminine couples have to go on is the masculine has to get better at not retreating when you get emotional, and also not allowing your emotions to overwhelm you, but like staying in your pocket and keep feeling and trying to be with her at the same time. But the journey my wife had to go on is she had to learn to stop going into these spirals where like we'd have an argument and every single negative thing I'd ever done would come back up in the argument. And every time I say this in front of dudes, we're all like, yes, I've had that experience.
16 years ago, you did that thing.
Yes,
yeah.
Fully. We've had that experience. And again, that's because from what I learned about my wife, she experiences time differently than what I do. Events aren't so like cut and dry for her. They're all mashed together.
Yeah.
And so 16 years ago can feel like right now to her in a different way. So she had to learn to take responsibility for her spirals, and I had to learn how to take responsibility for my coldness and my ability to go up in my head and be like, no, you said this word and then you said this, and like build this fucking matrix that she has to like jump through a million hoops before I'm like, oh no, you're just my wife, you're safe, I can probably calm down. So once you can clear that initial thing, which is what you and your wife are talking about, the spirals, you're like, oh no, don't bring up everything that's going on. But then you're also like, oh, hey, I don't really feel like you see me in the way I want to be seen as a man, and I need to learn how to communicate better.
Yeah.
This is all you feeling your shit and doing something about it. So you feel it with your wife and you do something about it. You feel it with your daughter, you do something about it. You feel it with Tony, fuck that guy.
But I want to speak into this and really lay out the full story as concisely as possible.
Great.
First mistake, say I do it in front of her friend. Instantly embarrass her. Don't consider her feelings. I'm angry at her for judging me. Go home, start rattling off in my head all the things that she doesn't acknowledge me for, not hearing her, not seeing her perspective. She comes home, I'm angry, I'm emotionally reactive. I then go to bed that night, I'm sitting in those feelings, judging myself like you've shared. The next day, talk to friends, talk to mentors, come back home, I calmly sit down with her and I say, I want to hear your perspective, right? I listen. She's like, I thought you were going to come home angry. That's a very key point here. Then I say, is it okay if I share with you my perspective? She says, yes. I say, first of all, I watched porn 2 months ago. We hadn't been having sex, you just had a baby. That doesn't excuse it. Now, the first time I watched porn was my mum's lesbian porn, right? My mum had some in her drawer.
Got it.
Cool. Second time, my dad's got porn.
Yep.
Growing up, watch it. For me, it's normal. Now, I know it's not normal for you. She goes, I never watched it growing up. So now we're getting each other's worldviews and perspectives. Then we go into a conversation of how she doesn't feel like she's enough or adequate. I say, I completely understand that. So we understand each other's perspectives. And I calmly, as my authentic self, explain what came up for me, the fact I'm being a victim, that I'm willing to, if she doesn't want me to watch it, I don't need it. I love you a lot more than I love porn. It just, for me, I don't think it was a problem. And we come to a conclusion that it's not a problem and it's been way better ever since. Now, all of that for me is, I believe, being our authentic selves and being able to come in and share our emotions and share our perspectives and share our worldviews and not necessarily agree, but resolve the situation. And I think this speaks to a lot of men where we have the same arguments and the same internal battles and the same demons. And there's nothing wrong with arguments or internal parts or demons or whatever you want to call them. I think it's only a problem when it keeps repeating.
Totally.
Is that what it means to be your authentic self? Is you feel it and you experience it and then you work through it? Is that what you're talking about?
Can you see how you said it, man?
Yeah.
It keeps repeating. I
Yes.
keep having the same fucking problem over and over and over again.
Yes.
This is the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Because
Because you're constantly battling the next dragon.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're not like, why the fuck am I battling dragons? How do I know my dragon's not supposed to be my best friend?
Yeah. Why can't I ride that fucker around?
For real.
Yeah.
And so to come back into this conversation with everything that you've done with your wife, like, yeah, you're describing this multifaceted situation. And I think one thing I'll share just for the guys back at home who do watch a lot of porn, like I used to watch a lot of porn until I watched the TED Talks of what it does to the masculine brain. And what I got taught, well, not taught, but what I got basically learned is ask your wife for a part of her that can have a name that you can keep in your imagination, and use your imagination to have sex with whoever you want to have sex with, because it will train your imagination to see your wife and see her as fucking gorgeous, because she's the...
Sorry, I find my wife the most attractive woman ever. Like, she meets all my sexual desires after 8 years. Sorry to cut in, but like, this is the part that I find hard is like, I'm a guy and most guys watch it, and I would love to talk about porn. I don't think it's great for you, but I'm like, I do find you attractive, and sometimes I just want to come, right? And it's a bit of a tricky thing, but a lot of men are addicted to it. Sorry to cut in.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah. And it's like, this is what I mean. It's just there's this, because we're talking about a bunch of different topics.
Well, I think it's valuable.
We're talking about your relationship. We're like moving through a bunch of things. Okay.
Well, my wife and I work through it. Is that my authentic self? And then porn's bad. We can get into that. Yeah.
Well, no, we'll do the porn. I don't need to tell everyone porn's bad. Okay, so let's talk about this wife thing. So what I'm trying to offer to you here is, yeah, that's awesome how well you've like moved through all of that. But then the next thing is like, you know, it happened, you went into victim, you went to sleep on the argument, you woke up the next day, you spoke to a bunch of mentors, and there's maybe a 24-hour period here.
It's exactly 24.
Great, well, you're just in your shit. Yeah. Okay, what I'm saying is, how do we make that from 24 to 22, 22 to 20, 20 to 16, 16 to 8, 8 to 1, and then to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
This is what guys don't even understand that is available to them. The speed that you can move through your emotional challenges, the things that are going on with you, your insecurities, you can grow so much faster than you can if you're just going to move through life thinking the only way to grow is to measure your growth by external metrics. I'm growing because I'm benching more. I'm growing because my business is making more. I'm growing because I'm like getting more dates. But if you ask, how are you growing in your relationship for your insecurities, you're not growing, you're like devolving, like it's getting worse. And so there's just this perspective here of, okay, what if there is another way? What if it's not about me becoming this perfect man who's going to kill every dragon, execute all the time, avoid all of my feelings, be a tough guy, have a bunch of dudes call me the man, wave a fucking sword, put a thing on my head and call myself a king? Like, what if it's not supposed to be like that? And one of the hidden aspects of a hero's journey is how often there's a king in the journey. And a lot of people today think we haven't actually left feudalism, that everyone thinks we live in this world of capitalism and governments, but there's a bunch of monarchs in the world who still have an unbelievable amount of power. Now, why is this important? A lot of men feel like they should be able to tell their mind what to do, and it should listen. And you should be able to command your emotions what to do, and they should just do it. And if you tell your Mr. Judgment to shut up and he doesn't shut up, you fail yourself as a man. That whole model of how to relate to yourself is based off the idea that you're a king. And so everyone around you should follow you as the law. And if they don't, you need to destroy them. I have just described how that is this insecurities, worthlessness thing, like all looped together, because you've got this faulty idea of how leadership is supposed to work. If instead of being in this idea that I'm supposed to become this perfect man, but instead, no, you're part of this cycle. There were people here before you. There's going to be people here after you. It's your job to inherit the earth from the old people who were here before you. Take care of this place, yourself, and the people around you, serving as a masculine man, and then give this world to the next generation of people who will then run it when you're gone. And that is the purpose of your life. It's not to become famous. It's not to become number one. It's to literally take care of this place and give it to the next generation. Now, if I'm honest, when I talk about this version of masculinity, I call it main quest masculinity, because you're serving, you're trying to take care of the world. You're not on the side quest of trying to become the fucking hero.
So you still are on the journey of the hero.
You're still on, okay, I'll give it to you this. You're still on the journey of becoming a king.
Yeah.
You're still, but when I say king, I really mean chief. You're still on the journey of becoming a man. You have to go on challenges to become a man. You don't get to just become 35 and become a man. You still have to go from being a boy to like a teen, from a teen to a man, and then a man who is a king, who is actually moving through this world, taking full responsibility for themselves and trying to be the best in themselves all the time. You still have to go on that journey, but you're not going on that journey chasing capitalistic goals. You're not going on that journey trying to be violent to other men. You're not going on that journey learning to be disrespectful to women. You're not going on that journey just constantly like avoiding your feelings. You're realizing the way to become a king is to become a king inside of yourself, like, as in like the leader that your parts are willing to follow. And that's actually what's going to unlock your true greatness.
Yes.
Your true masculine energy is going to unlock when you trust yourself and you don't avoid these things that are actually the like number one cause of breakdowns in your life.
So just to confirm, the main quest is that, and then the side quest is the hero's journey. Is that what you mean?
Correct.
Okay, and then how does this apply to cycles not conquering?
Nice. Okay. What I'm trying to do here is we're trying to weave at so many different levels at once, because like we're trying to help this individual dude who's just running a business and like needs to provide for his family. Okay, so they're trying to like help that dude.
Yeah.
We're then trying to talk about this deeper story myth of like how the hero's journey might fuck up how we relate to ourselves. And then the third level is we're trying to talk about how we've arrived here in the first place,
Sure.
right? Like as a culture, we're trying to weave all these things together in two parts.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the main quest idea is if you play an RPG, you get born into this story and you pick your character or whatever, but you don't get to pick where you're born, who your parents are, a whole bunch of the aspects of your life. There's your life story, and then there's the greater story of the game you're playing in. If you go into an RPG and you just focus on side quests, like getting good at mining and learning how to play cards, right? Your character will never progress. Your story will not progress because you're not on the main quest, you're on side quests. You'll still get heaps of skins and you'll get a new car and you'll get new watches and everything will be good. But on the inside, who you are as a man, that main quest has not moved.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say to guys is the journey to become a man, a spiritual man, a man who feels like a man. I don't need to like, the way I like to say about this, like you could be sitting butt ass naked in front of a full room of people or just with your undies on and you still feel the same man as you would if you were there in your suit with your hublot and whatever like you're doing to be really, really impressive. Your masculinity does not budge no matter what you're doing. That is what main quest masculinity is, because you're unlocking this thing that's like the true purpose of your story is to discover yourself and to get to know yourself, because you have all the answers inside of yourself. Because when you're a cycle, you are everything. There's no like barrier between you and everything else. So in the hero's journey, I'm an individual hero, you're another hero, and at some point we might have to compete against each other. You'll probably beat me, but that's the journey. Everything's a cycle. The gap between you and me is I got taught my skin. So I am Matt, and Matt finishes where my skin finishes, and you're Tony, and Tony finishes where your skin finishes. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great. But if I take the planet away, you die.
Mm.
If I take the sun away, you die. If I take rain away, you die. If I take the electrons away, you die. So you can't just be in your body. The thing that makes you, your life is in everything around you. This is what opens up when you start seeing that you're a cycle. You're like, okay, cool. I'm the same as everyone else on the planet. There are no people who have different shit and that life just works for them. Every human being in this world is here with their insecurities, with the shit they need to deal with. And I need to take responsibility for that, because it's people who don't take responsibility for their insecurities that hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. Wounded people wound people. If you don't want to be destructive in this world, by definition, you have to work on your inner wounds. Another way of looking like that is if everyone gets hurt by this world, everyone in the world who isn't working on their inner wounds is hurting the world. Mm-hmm. Who gives a shit how big of a bonus you get from Goldman Sachs or whatever whatever, I'm such a fucking man, I got $50 million payout, who cares how all of that is moving if how you feel as a man is not moving? Mm. Because you're not on the main quest. You're not realizing, yeah, dude, all of that exterior stuff's great, but if you're not taking responsibility for your inner pain, you're hurting human beings. And hurting human beings is not the main quest of masculinity.
And you won't feel like you're hurting human beings because you'll tell yourself the story. Well, my wife has the nice house and I've got the six pack, so she doesn't know what sort of cat she's got. Victim, victim, victim. And it's very ironic. One of the guys, he'll listen to this, who was in this room for our mastermind event, who was like, that podcast pissed me off. He's grown so much. He came to our last few events with severe anxiety, couldn't breathe. anxiety's disappeared.
Nice.
But one of his core wounds or issues is a lack of self-belief and a lack of self-confidence. So for you to sit here and say, as a man, knowing that you're working within and healing your wounds and you can stand butt naked in front of a bunch of other men, that would be extremely triggering to a man like that. Because it's like, that's so different to the identity I currently sit in.
Yep.
So tying this all together.
Well, let me just say something. Yeah. So just for this guy to help bring this down. Okay. I have this mission in life to help teach 1 billion people self-love. I've got a team of people who are working with me. I've been in business for 10 years. I've just not been speaking on podcasts or trying to build an online community because I needed to make sure I was a good enough teacher of self-love that if 1 billion people listened to me, that it would actually make the world a better place. That took fucking ages. That took so much time and energy and effort because when I dropped out of med school, it was to be this self-love expert. It wasn't to go be a hippie. Now I teach people self-love for free. You can go to selfloveforfree.com and I literally give away the first 9 weeks of my shit and I give away the secret sauce because I'm here to serve. And yeah, I want to grow my business and I want to make money, but mostly what I want to do is to make impact. What I want to teach you is just like Steph Curry wakes up every day and he's got this finite amount of skills he needs to work on to get better at the game of basketball. You can wake up every day and there's a finite amount of skills that you can get better at to get better at the game of self-love and masculinity. Just like you can break basketball down to passing, shooting, setting a screen, dunking if you can dunk, whatever the fuck else you got going on. You can break self-love down into these basic skills: non-judgment, commitment, learning how to be respectful, slowing down, learning what the true definition of trust means, knowing what it means to actually live in a life where you trust yourself so you can at least know what you're trying to aim towards. And this dude who's like triggered at my first podcast but making some changes, like, yeah, him going from being really anxious, being in a room with people, to being on stage just with the undies and still feeling like you don't care, that's like saying to someone who's never lifted a weight in their life, go squat 500 kilos on your first day. That's not going to happen in one day, but day by day, just like you can cause your muscles to break down, that's what lifting does. Lifting is hurting your muscles, causing yourself pain, breaking it down, but understanding there's a system and a way to go about it, giving your body rest, giving it all the nutrients, and your body will re-break what was broken and make it stronger than it was before. You can do that same thing with your spirit. You can do that same thing with your masculinity. You can consistently break down your masculinity, break down these parts in your life where you respond not from who you want to be, but you respond from your past, from your generational trauma, from the stories you were given growing up, and work on that shit, knowing this is the single best way for me to become a better dad. The single best thing I can do to become a better husband is deal with the shit that causes me to get emotional at my wife. Why would we keep blasting over it? Like, there's no point. And so for these guys back at home, it's like, there's this understanding that your whole life will change if you start to love yourself, because you have the ability to be able to step around these things like feeling like I'm not enough, so I've got to go into the external world to put a bunch of armor on to make myself feel like I'm a man. Nah, bro, you're a man because you were born, and you need to go on a journey to go from being a boy to being a man, and we can talk about what that journey is like because I've only just gone on that journey myself. When you and I first met, I wasn't a man. I was 27 or 28. I didn't say some of this stuff out loud now because I didn't have it. Now that I am a man, I want to help particularly dudes who are younger than the age of 30. There's so many mistakes I made because of all these stories that I were told that I just want to help you not make the same mistakes if you're open to it. So what we're talking about here is treating your emotional strength, your ability to not get triggered, your ability to sit in your triggering and still be normal, not be flipping out in your triggering. These are skills just like a bench press and a deadlift. Deadlift.
Yeah, deadlift.
I don't know what a deadlift is. Deadlift, it's right?
One-handed.
Yeah. It's the new thing, right? Like just like anyone in the world can go pick up a bar, and with the right training and getting form, you can progressively make your body stronger. You can make your emotional body stronger. So it's harder to trigger you. Just like if you lift, it's harder for you to get injured.
Yes.
You can deal with more emotional pressure before you flip out. Just like when you lift, you can carry more shit before you're seeing all this sort of stuff.
Of course.
And what I'm trying to offer to guys is big business and a bunch of families, maybe 50,000 families, maybe even less, they put all those stories in our heads which make us think as men that this is weird. This is your, we can talk about the Overton window a bit, but like this is normal. It's normal to wake up and want to be the best dad you can be, the best husband you can be, the best guy who can hunt that you can be. What is fucking up your life as a dad, as a hunter, as a wife, is your wounds. Just be honest with it. Let's be honest with it. Yeah, you've also got to get better at execution and push harder. Like that's all really important as well. And I don't want guys to get lost on this. You need to still be ruthless with yourself when you love yourself. Because if you fuck up, you've got to be ruthlessly honest with yourself. Again, there's a saying from athletics, you will not ever win until you first learn how to lose. And one of the most important things in life, if you have a business change, is identifying what actually happened. And if you don't eat enough humble pie, you'll constantly misread why things are breaking down in your life and you'll never get cause and effect sorted. So for these guys back at home, what I'm trying to say to you is like, masculinity is not in like saving up a whole bunch of money and buying something that like you think is going to make you a man because you saw a dude when you were 14 driving that Ferrari and he looked like he was a man. Nah, what's going to make you a man is your own choices. What's going to make you a man is taking responsibility for your wounds and your darkness inside yourself and not being a man who's destructive. If enough men are destructive, the game ends. So how can that be the main quest? The main quest is the thing that when we all do it, it means we get to play the game the longest. That's why it's the main quest. There are dudes in the world right now who are like, I've got a vision of 2,500 that we're going to work backwards for. The sun will boil the oceans in about 1 billion years. So why aren't you and I trying to figure out how to make sure there's men here in 500 million years? Seriously, all you men back at home, why is that not our vision?
Because it's so out of the scope of how most men think. I mean, I coach guys who can't think a quarter ahead. One of the first things we teach our clients is think a year ahead, let alone 500 million. It's the same as the person who has a heart attack, but he didn't think about that the whole time he was smoking, drinking, and eating shit.
Yeah.
I want to touch on a very important point here. I think it's very relevant. For that guy who's listening, he clearly is working on himself, but there are some wounds he gets to heal. And you mentioned that just like lifting weights and practicing the skill set, the limited skill set of basketball or lifting weights, there is a limited skill set of self-love.
Yes.
You rattled off a bunch of stuff really
I can
quickly,
give it to you. Yeah.
and we'll put it in the website as well. But can you break down for the man listening what they are? And before you do, I just want everyone to understand, if you want to have more aligned success, make more money, have more freedom, have a better marriage, be a better father, have the life you want, you're saying these skill sets are the key. They are the real game to get all those other things, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What are they?
All right. I want to nail this Tao thing, and then we'll leave the girdle thing for some other time. All right. The reason I want to talk about the Tao is because the first line of the Tao is a line of poetry that goes like this: the way that can be told is not the eternal way. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. It's the unnameable that's the eternally real. Now, Phil Jackson used this book, those words, to coach Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant into becoming 2 of the top, 5 basketball players who are masculine of all time. Okay, so you don't get to just dismiss these lines. The whole point of the Tao, the whole point of these cycles, the whole point of living life where you're not the hero, but you're trying to take care of the earth, take care of yourself, not destroy the world, but help heal the world. And that's the purpose of your masculinity, to be a keeper and a peacekeeper, not to be a destroyer and a conqueror. The whole idea is it boils down to your practice. Every day you wake up and you've got to get better at being a man. Every fucking day you have to wake up and practice. And what this line is saying is you cannot put the practice into words. It doesn't matter what you can say. If you can talk about it, it ain't it. Just like if you take MDMA, trying to explain to someone what it's like if you're on cannabis, it's fucking impossible. You cannot. You can be like, oh, I just feel a lot more loving right now. But like if you're on the experience of the psychedelics, it's impossible to communicate to the other person. They just have to do it for themselves. So this is what I want to offer to these guys back at home. It doesn't matter who you're listening to on whatever podcast it is. It's not in the language. It's about what you're doing in your own fucking life. And that's at all costs. Nothing else matters but you getting to the bottom of what's inside of you. Now, here's the best bit, Tony. But he just lied to you because he just said, if you can put it into words, you don't have it. But he's using words to teach that to us. Do you see that? So in the first line of the Tao, there's a paradox, right? There's something you have to work to understand. And the whole point is just, it is the way. There's a way of living, a way of being that me, you, a dude, 1,000,000 years time, 250,000 years ago, 5,000 years in the future, someone in Pakistan, someone in Lebanon, someone in the US, someone in Australia, 50 million, revenue business, $1 billion company, currently homeless. Every single one of those human beings, there's a way that if they started to live their life would start to move forward. Just think about that as a proposition. That's a really beautiful thing to think about the world. Oh, there's all a way we could start to live. And the way to live is with love. Your life will not make sense until you start putting love as the most important thing in your life, and you display how much you love by loving yourself. Because you can't give someone something you don't have. You can't be a plumber with leaky taps. You can't be going around telling everyone else how much you love them when you literally don't love yourself when you get too angry at your daughter. Okay, there's a conditional component to your love. You don't love yourself all the time. You love yourself when you're a good man. When you feel like you're not being a good man, you stop loving yourself. That's going to keep playing out in your life because you can't give someone the unconditional love that you want to give them if you're not giving it to yourself. So these 10 skills, I say as a coach, I teach people 3 things. 50% of what I teach is self-love, these 10 skills. The other 2 things that I do is teach consistency of commitment. I'm sure you do the same thing, and how to be a fucking adult. And I'm sure you teach the same thing, you know what I mean? So I don't just want to say it's these 10 things and you don't need to learn how to execute and think like a year ahead. And you've got to learn all of that sort of stuff as well, okay? Don't step past that because you've got to really attack these things. Okay, there's 5 values and then there's the 5 lessons you're going to master. All right, so the 5 values are the understanding that it doesn't matter how good of a teacher I am at self-love. It doesn't matter how effective I am if as you as a student don't show up ready to learn. We've all been into rooms where we've sat in a room, thought this was really cool, I'm really going to use this, and then we leave the program and a week later we do jack shit. It is irrelevant how good I am as a teacher if you are not actually going to receive what I say. So there's 5 values you need to embody to learn anything maximally, particularly self-love. They are respect, listen, commitment, non-judgment, and responsibility.
Can you say those again just a bit slower?
I'll come back to it. So respect.
Yep.
Listen, commitment, non-judgment, and responsibility. We'll come back to those in a second. That just because that takes a fucking hour to explain why they're all that way and all those. But these second 5 we can dive into. Okay, so basically you need to be a respectful student who's willing to listen, and you will know this with your clients. You need to listen to what your coach is trying to tell you to do, not what you think your coach is trying to tell you to do. And you have listened as a student when you've changed your behavior. If you're just showing up every week to your masterminds and you're not changing, you're not listening to me as a coach. Don't sit in here and say, ask really good questions, but then go home and do jack shit. The way to change is to listen to me by changing. That's how you display your change. The only way you're ever going to be able to make a change is to commit fully. Committing fully means doing without knowing how. That analogy you used about like shooting your daughter, that's a bit too intense, but the one I use for people is imagine you had a snake around your neck that was going to follow you every day, and you say you can't quit smoking, but if you have one cigarette, that snake's going to bite you and it's going to kill you. Can you quit smoking? And the answer is, yeah, fucking oath I can quit smoking. So you need to be able to have these conversations with yourself where like, you can't create a baby in 3 months. You can't force that. You have to surrender and learn what commitment means in that route. But then there are other times when commitment means, no, you just got to do so much better. Like wake the fuck up and let's go, like pull more of yourself out. When you're fully committed, you won't let the idea of I don't know how stop you. That is the sign of full commitment, all right? You will not let not knowing how stop you. You will learn how to solve your own problems if you're fully committed. All right, now it doesn't matter how fully you're committed, you're going to fuck up. It's not going to work. And if you fall off the horse and spend 2 years torturing yourself because you fell off the horse, your life's not going to work. The number one secret to life when you fall off the horse is get the fuck back on the horse. Don't try to analyze why you fell off the horse whilst you're on the ground. It will not work. Get back on the horse, get back after it, and then let it go, okay? So you need to learn how to not judge yourself. Realize, hey, it's okay that I fuck up. It's about taking responsibility for the fuck up and getting better, not acting like I'm not going to fuck up. And then the last component of that is realizing you need to take responsibility that every single thing you think and feel in your whole life is yours and yours alone to heal. No one else can help you heal it ever. I can't help you heal. I can just show you how if you choose to make some different decisions, you might be able to help yourself heal. All right, so that is in place, and anytime anyone stops following any of those values, we stop there. But then why do we really want to do it? Okay, so here's the 5-step secret sauce of self-love. First thing to do, always slow down. You got triggered at your daughter, you responded in a way you didn't want to, and you noticed that triggering probably when you said sorry to her. In that moment, you could say, hey, sorry, Talia, I think her name was, can you just give daddy a second? He just needs to slow down and take a breath. Oh. Your parts are always trying to speed you up. Your insecurities are always trying to speed you up. Always, 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 always trying to rush you. What you can do is start to be the king inside of you, be your greatness. What we say is we all have these hundreds of, by the way, I'm just trying to smash through this. This is my whole life's work, but I'm just trying to give guys as much value as I can.
No, you're doing great.
This.
It's very clear and concise.
Great. So with the slowing down piece, one thing I offer to guys is if you've seen the movie Inside Out, you know this, and parts work's becoming more and more popular. There's just a bunch of parts of you inside of yourself.
Yep.
You got Mr. Anger, Mr. Sadness, Mr. Shame, Mr. Guilt. And I want you to imagine you got 100,000 parts of you, right? Mr. Overwhelm, Mr. I hate guacamole, Mr. I love manly, Mr. I love my business. You've got literally these endless parts of worthlessness, overanalyzing, addictions, all of these parts of you. And we can scan them on a big barcode, boop, okay, that's Mr. Anger, boop, okay, that's Mr. Sadness, boop. And we do all of your parts. So there's all of them have been done except for this one part that's left. And you pick up that part and you scan it, and this is the part that is love. We call this part your greatness. For you and me, it's a chief, it's a king, it could be an empress or a chiefess. For a feminine being, it could be a chief, it's a gender diverse being. And when we're in this experience, your greatness lives 2 centimeters below your belly button and 2 centimeters inside. That is where your center of gravity is. A bunch of martial arts think that's a really important place. That's where the part of you that is love lives from. Your purpose in life and the way to master self-love is to operate from that place at all times. Every word that comes out of your mouth, every experience that you move through, you're trying to come from your greatness. You're trying to come from King Tony rather than emotional Tony or irrational Tony or angry Tony. And you are a king of love. That's what makes a true king. It's not a crown. It's not a sword. It's your character. Not how many levels your character has, but the type of character you are. A good man. A good man who takes responsibility for his family, isn't destroying the world, is loving the world, and you understand that's who you choose to be. Putting that Tony up into the world, running your business meetings from him, that staff meeting you ran from him, talking to your wife from him. If you set that as your standard, I'm going to be King Tony all the time. Whenever you leave, and you will, because you're imperfect and we're learning, that's your insecurities. Mm-hmm. So 100% of the time when you're triggered, you can do something about it. Because oh no, my standard is I want to be my best self. I just wasn't. I didn't choose not to be my best self. I must have been triggered. Let me go investigate. So we slow down to remind ourselves we don't have to run. We can investigate what's going on inside of ourselves. The second step is to then serve. To understand it's okay to serve yourself. And you as a king, the CEO inside of you, that's who you are, can walk around and make choices. It's your job to serve the people inside of you. When Mr. Judgment's gone apeshit, and he's running a rebellion against the king, don't come in on your horse and try and just kill Mr. Judgment. Come in on your horse, get the fuck off your horse and be like, I'm sorry there's a rebellion. I could have done better as a leader. How can I help you? Literally, you talking to Mr. Judgment like that, hey man, I'm sorry I've been pushing you down for so long. What can I do to help you? Will completely transform your relationship with him, and he will start speaking back to you. And you can build a relationship based off love, which is the next step, with your parts. And over time, as Mr. Judgment realizes you are safer and safer and that you're more and more okay, eventually he will vanish and you won't have Mr. Judgment anymore. So I don't really have Mr. Judgment anymore. I don't really have Mr. Self-Doubt anymore. It used to dominate my life. I know those guys and they trust me as king. The last step then is the last 2 steps then is to understand you're going to have to trust something in this world. Oh my gosh, we did it. We got it back to Gödel. There's this guy who walked home with Einstein who did this proof, which says that there are some things which are true in mathematics, which you can't prove true. It's called the incompleteness theorem. I didn't make it up. It's a fact, which means mathematical certainty is impossible. And there's always going to be something your intuition needs to guide you towards. Doesn't matter how good you get at math, math's never going to be able to give you all the answers. You're going to have to get an answer from somewhere else. What Kurt did is shows knowledge, mental language is always going to be incomplete. you have to find a feeling to bring your life home. And this feeling is the feeling of love. There's a part of you that is love, doesn't need to know how to be love. You can just be that in the world, and you can trust that part, because you have to trust something. You have to stop asking questions somewhere. And when you trust someone, you won't ask them questions. So I trust you. Let's say we finish this podcast, we go outside, I go to the loo, and then like you're like saying goodbye to me, and you have my phone and my wallet in your hand as you're saying goodbye. I'll just be like, oh, Tony was just grabbing my stuff, all good. I'll take it in my wallet and go. If I don't trust you, once I take my phone and my wallet off you and I get in the Uber, the first thing I'm going to do is rip out my wallet and see what you've taken, or like go through my phone and see what's going on. This is how most people are towards themselves. This is how you are. Like, you're constantly questioning yourself at all times. When in actual fact, if you trusted yourself, you wouldn't ask those questions, because that's what trust is. It's the absence of questions. And all that energy and inner resistance that's creating those questions gets to go into your masculinity, and that masculinity boost will show you that you were right in trusting yourself. Mm-hmm. And then the last lesson to tie it all together is, it doesn't matter what you say, we're all on this journey to just get better at being in our greatness. Masculine, feminine, gender diverse, however you are in the world, I'm on this journey. I can tell you right now what I'm working on in my life, where I'm trying to lift to get better as a man myself. I'm not perfect. I'm still getting better at this stuff all the time. But it's just a different route than conquer, be a king, and don't ever fucking talk about your feelings. Because again, what's the point of being a king if you don't feel like a king? Like, what's the point? Nah, you can feel like a king, but you don't have to be this famous, peak experienced man in the world. You can just be a dude who loves his job, loves his family, makes good money, has a good business, but you're a good dude in the world who stands on that as your business. I will be a good man in this world. I'll be a king. I'll be a better father, husband, provider, and I'm not going to destroy this world by refusing to work on my insecurities.
I love that. So can you break that down, those 5 lessons? We have slow down. What are the 5?
Slow down, serve.
Slow down, serve.
Love, trust, be in your greatness.
Love it.
And just so everyone knows, there's like a 9-week program on everything I just said out loud that you can use for free, called selfloveforfree.com. You just put that in there and you can go and download it. And if you want to come and see me speak in the flesh, I run all-day programs helping people get in their greatness. It's called Embody Your Greatness. There's one on the 24th of May in Sydney and one on the 14th in Melbourne of June. But the big thing, man, is like, yeah, I'm just this dude. The next podcast you see me on, wherever it'll be, I'm still just going to be talking. I want to help 1 billion people get self-love. I want more people to understand how the 1%'s making all of us think we need to compete against each other rather than come together right now, and just teaching men the stories that were left out of high school so they can build a version of masculinity which makes them feel alive and happy and joyful and masculine as fuck. Because that's what we all want. Okay, so let's do that rather than just keep like repeating this conquering hero. I just think the last thing I'll say, because we're nearly out of time here, is like, yeah, just thanks for giving the examples of what's playing out with you and your daughter. Like, it's so much more helpful for me when you actually play that out and we can take that down line by line. So, man, I just want to encourage you to like focus on that non-judgment piece. And then the last piece in here is, every now and then you'll judge yourself for the fact that you're judging yourself. We call that judgeception. Just be real careful of that.
Yeah, right? I appreciate that a lot. I think men need stories, because everything you say makes so much sense to me. I've heard some of these principles, some are brand new to me, but I was taught a long time ago that the number one trait I can have as a man is to be open-minded and to question things and to ask, how could that be true? How could that not be true? So when you speak, I know how valuable it is. And I think a lot of men who are listening to this right now, who have made it this far, if you're doubting anything you've heard, if you're questioning anything you've heard, just ask yourself, what are my stories and how could this apply to my stories? The reason I share about my daughter, my wife, the porn, like, it's embarrassing, but it's not. You know, that's the old story. And it's because a lot of men can relate to the stories and the high level stuff goes over their heads. So,
yeah, and the other thing that I would say to these guys is like, be brave enough to ask a question.
Yeah.
Because like this guy who's like, oh, I hated it, I don't know. No, you do know. If you didn't like this podcast, you're the only person who's going to have that answer. Don't judge yourself, and let's have the honest conversation. Because the thing that I say to people is, life's not about having questions. Life's about finding answers. And what I want to offer to the guys back at home is, how would you know if you found the answer? Right? And so like I want to offer to guys, there's a lot of guys who've come into my rooms with all the questions in the world and I answer them. And they're like, oh, fuck. It's like, yeah, bro, self-love, you can logic yourself into it. So thanks so much for having me on. And just for everyone back at home, like for all the dudes in there, maybe you're being challenged by what I say, like ask me a question. There's places on the free program where you can do a question and I'll answer it. And like, I want to talk to you and engage with you and help you understand this, because The more people who are loving themselves, the better for me.
Yeah, and drop a comment down below. Like, what challenged you? What triggered you? What do you agree with? Like, let's create a dialogue and really own the reality of what we're perceiving this to be.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's been an absolute honor. You've flown up from Sydney to the Gold Coast twice now for this, so we really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And we'll do it again soon.
Great. Thanks so much.
If you want to actually take this framework that I shared and apply it to your life, it's part of our Empowered Man Armory and our app that we've spent almost 250 grand on. If you want access to a powerful system where you can use this reframe system I just shared with you every single day, then find me on Instagram at Tony Empowered Man, TonyEmpoweredMan. I'll put the link down below as well. Send me a DM saying reframe, and I'll give you this exact framework as well as early access to the Empowered Man app when it launches.